My name is Alex Orfinger, and I am pleased to serve as MC for today's executive luncheon for the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And in addition to that role, I also serve as the publisher of the Washington Business Journal. And I'm just really pleased to be here to welcome you here today to what will be a terrific program. As each of you know, each year the Business Expo features this high-profile VIP luncheon that brings together leaders from across our community. Today's speaker, who I'm excited to introduce later on, will really stir us, hopefully to action and to thinking and to some new ideas. But before we get to that, and to continue to interrupt your lunch, please welcome the GWHCC President and CEO, Nicole Quiroga.
Good afternoon, everyone. What a turnout. Wow. Thank you so much for being with us today. Several of you approached me and said, wow, this is definitely a who's who room. I can't agree more. This is one of my favorite parts of our expo. I'm just honored to be with you all today. Thank you to Mayor Bowser for being with us. Really appreciate you being here and showing support. Thank you. And to all the government officials from the region for being here and supporting us once again. To our board of directors, Juan Jara, our chairman, thank you for all you do for us. And to the people who none of this would happen without them. To my staff, where are you, my dear staff? David, Idalise, Veronica, Eric, Alma. This is incredible. Allow me to thank the people who make our work happen, please. To our trustees, PEPCO, PenFed, and Events DC, thank you so much for your unwavering support. To our President's Club, Verizon, Employ Prince George's, and the Mayor Office, a spirited group. Thank you all so much. The Mayor's Office on Latino Affairs. Thank you guys so much for being with us. To our executive luncheon sponsors, Washington Gas, Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, Bank of America, DC HealthLink, and a special shout out to our keynote speaker, James Rhee, who you will hear about momentarily. Thank you so much, James, for being with us. I appreciate it. And to my friend, of course, and our MC for the luncheon, market president and publisher of the Washington Business Journal, Alex Orfinger. Enjoy, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our mayor, the 7th elected mayor of Washington, D.C. Mayor Bowser, who has a strong record of creating a bold urban agenda, leading this fair city, making tough decisions in a very challenging environment, and helping us shape this diverse economy that we call home. Let's give a rousing round of applause as we welcome the mayor.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. No, thank you. Thank you. Please have a seat. Thank you. It is great to be with you this afternoon, and always a pleasure to be with the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for always choosing Washington, D.C. to celebrate our business community. I want to acknowledge your leadership in Nicole Quiroga. Give her a big round of applause. And Juan Jara, your chair. Please give Juan a big round of applause. I also want to acknowledge that we've been joined by the Colombian ambassador to the United States, the Honorable Luis Muriel. Please give him a round of applause. We know that working in public service and representing Washington, D.C., I am fortunate that my life and my career in elected office really allowed me to do what I love every day and put all of my skills to work, working for the best city in the world. And it is also very important that as we focus on this really, really key time in our city, that we all focus our attention on our role in the city's comeback. We are especially focused on how we make sure we have the most vibrant downtown anywhere in America, or certainly any capital city in the entire world. And as we come back, I will continue to ask you, what is your role in this comeback? We are delighted to be in the beautiful Washington Convention Center, and I'm sometimes reminded, and I like to remind other people, that some of the big things that we have done in our city haven't been easy, they haven't been unanimous, and they have been well worth it. Can you believe that there were people that didn't think that we should build this building here? But there were. Or that we shouldn't build a world-class stadium for the Washington Nationals? Can you believe that? But there were. And so as we think about thinking big, let's always remember that some of the choices that we make are tough, and at the time, some won't have the most supporters, but looking back, we're all proud that we can welcome conventions to our city, and that we have a world champion sports team playing at Washington's National Stadium. I can think of some other sports teams that need a home, can't you? So as you think of your own businesses, I know that you're thinking of, what will it take for me to hire more DC residents, invest more, have another location, make sure that when we're talking together 5 years from now, that we're talking about how we got bigger and better and even more efficient, how we were bolder, and how we played a key role in making sure that we're attracting more employees and visitors to Washington, D.C. The economic health of the D.C. region is increasingly tied to the success of Latino entrepreneurs. That's good news for the Hispanic Chamber, isn't it? There are more than 6,400 Latino-owned businesses in the area, and the DC metro region has a higher concentration of Latino-owned businesses than the United States at large. And we don't have a lot of Latino-owned businesses. We have a lot of amazing Latino-owned businesses. I was just in a room filled like this with the Washington Hispanic Contractors Association, celebrating the contributions to our construction and built environment. And today we were very happy with the Mayor's Office on Latino Affairs and the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the Restaurant Association of Washington today to announce the first ever DC Latino Restaurant Week. So I want to thank Director Perdomo and his team, the teams here with the association, for putting DC on the map again. We have 18 participating restaurants around the city showcasing the flavors of a diverse Latino cuisine. So we know how important restaurants and hospitality are to our comeback. As I like to say, Restaurants and hospitality and nightlife and arts aren't just fun and games, though they are fun. It helps the bottom line of our city. We love to see all of our visitors from the region as well as international visitors and other places in the U.S. come to fill D.C., fill our restaurants and hotels. And when we see that, that also means that D.C. residents are working, and it means that we can make key investments in schools, transportation, and public safety. You know that this is budget season, but I won't bore you with a long talk about the city's budget. But I will say, we need our $10 million Vitality Fund. We need $1.5 million for creative and open spaces. We need a downtown housing program that fills our downtown with people who live there, with kids, with life, with vibrancy. And I propose increasing that from $6 million to $41 million to add 8,000 more residents to the downtown. We need an additional $6 million in our commercial property acquisition fund, and by all means, $7.5 million for DC family fun destinations in the downtown that will bring family-friendly attractions to our downtown. So when we do this together, diversify our space, bring more people to the downtown, fill downtown spaces with people, that is how we return what we all know is Washington, D.C., and that is a vibrant and growing downtown. And so I'll end with how I started. What will be your role in this incredible comeback? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. And now let's turn to hear some words from our board chair, Senior Vice President and Market Manager for City National Bank, Juan Jara. Juan, come on down. Let's give it up for Juan.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Thank you for waiting in line. I mean, I know it was a little long, but it was worth it, wasn't it? Yes. Mayor, thank you very much for being with us today. Bienvenidos, everyone, to our expo. I'm so excited to see so many of you again. It's been a wonderful morning already, and the afternoon promises to be even better. I am so honored to be in this room with so much Latino excellence. Now, let me say something. When the mayor talks about a comeback, think about who can do a better comeback than this Latino community. Look at this room. We are bringing people to DC. We're making sure that we're making noise. We're making sure that we're consuming. We're making sure that we're paying taxes. Trust me, I just finished mine. So you're welcome, Mayor. But you know, I am such a proud resident of DC. I've been in DC. It will be 30 years next month. So I came when I was very, very young. But one of the most wonderful things of living in this area, and in DC in particular, is its diversity. And it's not only its diversity as people know it. It's not just black and white and brown and Asian. No, it actually is deeper than that. And today, in the convention center, I think we represent that even better than any other time. Today, I walked around for a few of the aisles, and I found people from Colombia, El Salvador, Ecuador, Bolivia, DR, Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, Venezuela, Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and if I missed anyone, I apologize. And my dear, dear Peru, which is where I'm from. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Now, Nicole already mentioned this, and we mention this every time that we come to stage, but I think it's very important for us to acknowledge the fact that with very little, we do a lot. With very little, oh, Panama, I'm sorry. Somebody's looking at me going like, Panama. With very little, we do a lot. Our budgets are tight. Without your support, we couldn't get here. But more importantly, the team is small but mighty. We have very few people on staff, and they do tremendous work. from designing this beautiful stage to finding people like James Rhee, to making sure that we had the logistics down, to making sure that, I mean, today we have a fashion show at the end. It's amazing what they can do. It really is. And that tells you the diversity of our economy in the area also. We're not just the Fed. We're not just the federal government. We are restaurants, we are artists, we are professionals. We have a lot here. Friends, please enjoy today. At the end, don't forget that this is about business and connections. Make sure to exchange QR codes. I'm out of business cards, so you may be getting a LinkedIn instead if you want to reach out to me. But whatever we can do for you at the Chamber, do let us know. We are here to help. We are here to move businesses forward. Enjoy today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Juan. And what a great message about the power of the Chamber to help its members and help grow business here in Washington. Now it's time to hear from our executive luncheon sponsors. Our sponsors obviously are an important part in supporting the Chamber as well as this expo today and creating more opportunities for all of us for business growth and success. So first, let's welcome Frank Castellanos from Merrill Lynch, Wealth Management, Senior Executive with Bank of America. I butchered that title totally.
But he got the last name right, so he wasn't pronouncing that earlier. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So exciting to be here today. It's an electric room. You know, when you go to a lot of these conferences, they tend to be stuffy and boring, but at every Hispanic Latino one, boy, you just feel the energy here, right? So, bienvenidos, great to be here. I'm proud to represent today my colleagues and the fine work that they do each day to advocate, quite frankly, for Hispanic Latino business in the area, right? A lot of talk is usually in platitudes, aspirational. So rather than do that today, let's talk some numbers. You guys are business owners, right? Business people, y'all want to hear numbers? All right, I'll give you some numbers, okay? One of the things I think that makes us special is that we represent the communities we serve. At our company, we serve 13 million Hispanic Latino business owners and individuals each day. 1 million of those are Hispanic business owners, okay? We provide vital support to our businesses across the U.S., including economic relief programs. And the trend for us is important, and it's an important thing for you to understand, all right? We are the bank of choice for Hispanic clients across the country. 1 out of every 3 new accounts for our company is tied to a Hispanic Latino individual or business. So let's talk the numbers a little bit. All right, some estimate, and here's the opportunity. Some estimates are that less than 2% of venture capital funds are allocated to startups with diverse leaders. Think about that number, 2%. We want to change that. We've committed, in order to change that, $421 million to more than 130 funds, and 22% of that money is going to Hispanic Latino businesses today. All right? In 2022, we doubled our commitment to low-cost deposit programs to minority depository institutions to $200 million. All right? Everybody knows that home ownership is one of the key ways to get people to build wealth in this country. So when you think about that, our company has committed $15 billion, with a B, dollars to affordable home ownership programs to help over 60,000 individuals purchase a home. That equals 39,000 individuals and families that have received more than $10 billion to date so far. Think about that number, all right? That defines stakeholder capitalism for us, all right? We originated more than $263 million in loans and investments to community development financial institutions as well, all right? Finally, we have a total portfolio of over $2 billion at year-end for programs like this. And while we are proud of our work to date, there's still much for us to do, and much more we will do. But this is a pretty strong start, I'd say, all right? We are proud to be part of the community here in Washington, D.C., serving our mayor, serving our businesses, and part of this community to help it grow even more. So thank you for your time and for your partnership. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Frank. Well, now let's welcome our next sponsor and a grantor of the Foundation for the Chamber, Mila Kaufman, Executive Director from the DC Health Benefit Exchange Authority.
Unfortunately, our Executive Director could not be with us today. She sends her apologies and her best wishes to all of you on a very successful event. My name is Antonio Guernica. I'm the Director of Business Development for DC Health Link. And DC Health Link's goal is to have every small business, every family, every individual in the District of Columbia with quality and affordable health insurance. That's our goal. We do pretty well at it. Right now, we're about 97% of having these people who live in DC enrolled in health insurance. And we love partnering with the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We've done this for many years. They are great partners in going out and talking to the folks that we want to talk to. And I just invite you, I don't want to go into all I just invite you to please stop by our booth here. Or if you have questions, go to dchealthlink.com. You'll get much more information than probably you'll ever want or need on health insurance and the benefits that it brings you as a small business. It makes your business more competitive. Gives you a reliable and happy workforce. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Enjoy your lunch and the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, DC Health Link. And now please welcome Kelly Vaughn, Director of the Office of Community Engagement and Sponsorships from the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. Kelly, come on up.
Good afternoon. Hola. It's my privilege and honor to be here representing the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. We're happy to be a sponsor of this luncheon and also a conference exhibitor. The Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development believes that small businesses are the engine that drive the economy. We offer loans and business growth tools to new and expanding small businesses and nonprofit organizations, whose efforts help improve and revitalize existing commercial districts and town centers. Our Neighborhood Business Works loan program is used by small businesses and lending partners to provide financing options during all phases of business growth. Last year, under the Neighborhood Business Works program, we provided $9.3 million in capital to new and growing businesses in Maryland. I think that deserves a hand. And we're continuing to grow. The Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development has been designated as well as a lead agency to administer the Maryland State Small Business Credit Initiative program, which I'm sure you have heard of, SSBCI funds, in partnership with the Maryland Department of Commerce and the Maryland Technology Development Corporation. The $198 million in SSBCI funds are being used to augment, supercharge successful existing state programs like the Neighborhood Business Works program I mentioned earlier, managed by the Maryland Department of Commerce and TechCo. The department is seeking to strengthen partnerships with banks, community development, financial institutions, and mixed-use developers to explore how to help lenders and entrepreneurs turn business plans into actual brick-and-mortar businesses. I encourage you to visit our website at dhcd.maryland.gov and look on the business page to learn more about these and other programs. And be sure to stop today by our exhibit booth, which is 411, and talk to Alvaro, who I have here. Alvaro, you just raise your hand, and he can tell you more about our programs. It's my privilege and honor again to be here. Gracias, and thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I hope you're all enjoying your lunch as we do this. Now, saving the best for last, I hope. For our final executive luncheon sponsor remarks, let me introduce Brandon Todd, Senior Director of Corporate Public Policy with Washington Gas. Brandon.
Good afternoon. All right, my name is Brandon Todd, and I lead Government and Public Affairs for Washington Gas. And Washington Gas is delighted to be a member and a partner with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Let's give Nicole and the entire team at the Hispanic Chamber a big round of applause. It is always an honor to be with our mayor, Mayor Bowser. Thank you, Mayor, for you and your administration's laser focus on making sure D.C. is open and that we have a thriving business community in Washington, D.C. Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Friends, 2023 marks a significant year for Washington Gas. On July 8th, we will celebrate our 175th birthday. I think that does deserve a round of applause. That's a pretty big deal. In 1848, Washington Gas Light was chartered by the Congress of the United States of America to provide gas light to the U.S. Capitol, and those gas lights are still in place today. At Washington Gas, we like to think that we provided some of the earliest transparency to our nation's government. Today, Washington Gas serves over 1.2 million customers in the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, providing safe, reliable, secure, and affordable, and ever more sustainable energy to businesses and homes like that are represented today. It is businesses like yours that are truly the backbone of our economy, and Washington Gas is happy to do our part to support our local business community. And that's why Washington Gas has set supplier diversity goals to double down on our company's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion by creating sustainable partnerships and diverse supplier base reflective of the communities that we serve. In addition, as committed champions of supplier diversity, we include a diverse spin as part of our company's annual corporate value drivers to ensure accountability across sectors. Our Strive for 35 plan to increase supplier diversity, our supplier diverse spin to 35% by 2028 is going quite well. This plan further supports our diversity and inclusion values that will be of benefit to our customers, our communities, and our employees. For 2022, our diverse procurement expenditures, we exceeded our goal in both commodity and non-commodity procurement, meaning we purchased both natural gas and goods and services from a record number of diverse suppliers. We know that there is much work to be done to ensure that diverse suppliers always have a seat at the table, but Washington Gas is committed that you have that seat. So I encourage you to visit our booth and see Alice to learn about a number of opportunities at Washington Gas Light for our diverse spend goals. Thank you and congratulations to the Hispanic Chamber.
Let's give a big round of applause to all of our sponsors and for their support for the Chamber. So I hope you all are enjoying lunch. I am not. But I will be. But I want to thank all the sponsors, and I certainly want to thank the Chamber for putting on such a fantastic luncheon and event today. I have this great pleasure now of introducing our speaker for today. Our speaker is a transformative CEO, a transformative investor and educator on a journey to becoming an influential thought leader. James Rhee is a former high school teacher and private equity investor. He's received widespread acclaim for saving the nearly bankrupt clothing retailer Ashley Stewart as a first-time CEO. His TED Talk, The Value of Kindness of Work, in which he shares his inspiring story, has received over 2 million views. Since he left Ashley Stewart in 2020, James has been working on Red Helicopter, a movement he started with the aim of spreading his philosophy for building a better version of capitalism based on a combination of kindness and math. It is a pleasure to have him join us today. Let's give him a big round of applause as you continue enjoying your lunch.
So let's sort of state the obvious, and I think it's sort of a harbinger of things to come. I'm not the obvious choice to be your lunchtime speaker for this event. So you can all laugh about it and say, what? Like, who's this guy? And so hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand sort of why from a history standpoint, but I think more importantly, why from a go-forward standpoint that all of this has happened. We're living in a lot of systems change right now. It's sometimes hard to feel like you're in control, but I want to make sure what we're going to do, we're going to really personalize this. I'm here because Carl Brown at Howard University Carl has like a big fan club, introduced me to T-Row of the SBDC, and I keynoted the National SBDC conference in San Diego. And then one of Nicole and Juan's colleagues, Idalise, was in San Diego and came back and said, it may seem unconventional, but there's this guy, I think he's Korean, I think he'd be a great speaker for our lunch. So just while you're feeling a little bit out of control and things are moving at warp speed, just remember, it always is proximate individual relationships that make things happen. It always is, and that's why it's nice at luncheons like this. So we're going to talk about a lot of things today. I've got 60 minutes to make sense of all this. After about 5 more minutes, I'm going to get joined up on stage. We're going to do it in a conversation fashion. We're going to talk about cognitive science, systems change, private equity, venture capital, future of business, future of tech, future of society, the role of business in society. And that can get lost, so I'm going to introduce 3 characters in this play. The first are my parents. My parents both no longer are with us now. They moved to this country in 1966. They came right after the 1965 Immigration Exclusion Act was lifted. My dad was a pediatrician. My mother was a nurse. We were raised in a household that cared for people. And I'm going to keep coming back to that word. They gave care. And I went to a big public school in Long Island. My dad and mom didn't own a stock until maybe they were retired, something like that. They hid cash in the sock drawer. That's the house that I grew up in. That's Yuchan and Khwaja Ri. James, that's me, was sort of their American experiment. They said, geez, we really want you to be successful here. We really want you to assimilate. And for them, that meant what? We're going to send you to Harvard. You're going to try to make a lot of money. And we're going to de-emphasize being Korean. We don't really want to force you to learn Korean. We want you to sort of blend in. And maybe being like us is not so helpful for you as you sort of conquer the tallest buildings of Boston and New York. That's me. But James, by the way, I'm speaking myself in third person, first job at a college was teaching high school for $12,000 a year. And I went to Harvard Law School not to make a lot of money. I went to be a public defender. So I have the heart of a teacher public defender, but I've managed billions and billions of dollars of money. I'm sort of very complicated, okay? The third person in this play is I'm going to call her a woman named Ashley Stewart. Yes, it was a company. I didn't do it for the company. I did it for the women. And I always called this company Ashley because for me, I pictured a woman. Ashley is black, size 12 and up, moderate income, woman. Okay? That's this woman. So you can imagine this company, which is a collective metaphor for this woman. It was not an easy 22 years of existence for this company in this country. And so in 2013, Yuchan, who was dying of Parkinson's, Khwaja, his wife, who was caring for her husband alone because culturally it was unacceptable to do anything otherwise, their son, and millions of Ashleys across this country, we all met in 2013 And I think I'm going to leave it there. Suffice to say, as the intro said, ultimately something happened where I did a TED Talk. Apparently, over 2 million people have watched it. I was on Brene Brown's Dare to Lead Leader podcast after President Obama. I chair entrepreneurship at Howard University. I teach at MIT. And I'm still investing very heavily behind, let's just call it othered entrepreneurs, who I don't think are so othered actually at all. So with that, with those three characters, I think that we're going to cover a lot where I think the country is going, and some of the things that I learned living this with these ladies. So you want to join me and talk about this? And I've told them that they can ask me anything. I'm sort of better unscripted and slightly funnier. So, yeah.
Hello. Thank you so much, James. You know, we've made an instant connection from when we first started talking, and you made us laugh and maybe cry a little bit.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions for you. As you said, you spent many years in tall buildings in New York and in Boston, managing billions of dollars of private equity money. Why did you choose to walk away from that life, your education, your boards, your social circles, to become CEO of Ashley Stewart?
So I like the question because it's I didn't walk away from it. I really walked more toward who I am. I think I sort of mentioned who I am. I'm the son of immigrants. I'm a teacher. I was raised by caregivers. I'm a big optimist in people. I never knew what money was growing up. I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how it was organized. So yeah, I became like a big guy, right? I've owned a lot of things that you know. Over the time of me being in private equity during the peak of my career, I'm 52 years old. Private equity and capital has become a bit too divorced, let's just say, from labor and common sense policies. I found it crushing the type of families that I grew up with. And so in 2013, there was this company called Ashley Stewart. You have to picture the scene. I really want to make this. The company had no Wi-Fi. The company had just been bankrupt 3 years prior. The company had no true cash flow capability, access to credit. It had 0 terms, meaning I had to pay cash on delivery to vendors. Just think about this. And so when I was looking at this situation, it was metaphoric for me. So on the one hand, my dad's dying, and the life that he wanted me to have, it was really kind of crushing the type of families that I grew up with. I mean, I think that there's a way to make money and capitalism works where you're really creating opportunity and hope and pro-democracy trends. It wasn't looking that way to me. And so in 2013, when I went, I signed up just for 6 months. I said that I would resign as chairman, and I ripped up my resume, and I said, I'll come back in 6 months. I'll resume my life in Boston. Everything's going to be back to normal. And then we can get into this. I want you to know, after 6 months, not one single person showed up with a check to help this company after 6 months. So after 6 months, I had another choice. Do I sort of look away and go back to being in Boston and just say, these ladies, they're just numbers. They're just numbers. I can just go back. Or I could honor my promise, because when I first got down there, they all looked at me and they kind of said, it's you? Like, you're our new CEO. And I said, I know. And they said, it makes sense to us. And they said, is it ride or die? And I said, yeah. It's ride or die. And so after 6 months, I didn't leave. I called in favors. I raised a bunch of money, and I showed up at the bankruptcy court and said, you're not liquidating this freaking company. We're going to go. And the rest is history. We did some things that were very different. If you can imagine, for this company to be successful, we in 2 years, we were keynoting the largest retail and tech conferences in the country, 2 years from not having money or Wi-Fi.
So impressive. So impressive. And something that I'd like to share with the group, you hold 2 appointments, the Johnson Endowed Chair of Entrepreneurship at Howard University and Senior Lecturer at the MIT Sloan School of Management. You are, in fact, the first person to hold dual appointments. Tell us about that.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yes.
Very cool.
So the first one, which I'm really proud of, so after my mother passed away, and I ended up staying 7 years at Ashley Stewart. So 6 months became 7 years. My entire 40s were spent hanging jewelry side by side with the women that became my family. I didn't think anyone really was watching. I think the consciousness changed in 2020 an awful lot. So people sort of said, that's what you were talking about. And so Dr. Frederick called me randomly and said, how would you like to spend some time as Johnson Chair of Entrepreneurship at Howard University? And I think I cried in front of him. I just couldn't believe it. I was just so moved, and I cried. And I said, I'm crying in front of the president of Howard University. And he said, our friend, Debbie Jarvis, said, it wasn't what you did, it was how you did it. And we saw it in the women's faces. MIT is MIT. And so in my view about the future of America, why shouldn't a school like MIT and a school like Howard University be reinventing systems? Why not? And it makes all the sense in the world to me. It makes as much sense about why I'm sitting up here with you right now. I mean, all it takes is just a little bit of connectivity, some trust, and an open mind. And I think in order to do some of these things, to create these orthogonal alliances and friendships, you need people, individuals that have the courage to say some of these things and that bridge different groups. And so I find myself, that's one of my roles, I think, in my life right now, is to just be a bridge. As much as sometimes I would rather be home in my family room, because this is not my personality, so you know. But it's an opportunity to really start bridging groups and ideas and to really think creatively about what this country can be rather than looking at the same systems and doing it over and over and over again. I think what it's going to take is the creativity of artists and musicians to get people to really reimagine what this can or should be. And so that's the significance of these 2 appointments.
So if you don't mind, so we talked about we as minorities often face conflict. How does a Korean man become so close with black and brown women? And actually, you mentioned that at the Howard University Women's Summit, someone said that you have the heart of a black woman.
That's true. About 4 years into my journey, so I got these comments from like Lala Anthony, Whoopi Goldberg, Solette O'Brien, Tashonda Duckett. They were whispering at me and saying, it's different. What's happening right now, we're watching, it's different. And they said, what is it? And I said, well, it took 2 or 3 years, but my friends finally, we've created an environment where she is the majority. And we're allowing her to be just her, to just be. And then we're bending the systems to adjust to her rather than her being bent by systems. And that's what my role was, is that I have the connections, I have the connectivity. And I said, no, she's going to do it this way. And then we're going to bend this 5%, this 5%. So anyway, so Charisse Jones, who won a Pulitzer Prize and covers the economic opportunity beat for USA Today, she took me out to dinner. And Charisse sat me down and said, I want to say something to you. It's the highest compliment I can give someone. And she said, you have the heart of a black woman. And she said to me, do you know what that means? And I looked at her and I said, you know, after 4 or 5 years living just predominantly with black women, I said, yeah, I do. And she said, what is it? And I said, do you mean it's the heart of someone who cares so deeply about her children, her family, but also a broader humanity, that she gives so freely and she wants to create so much goodness but holds hope against hope. But usually people don't reciprocate and she feels disappointed and that she gave everything and she didn't get back what she should get. And I said, I think that that's what a heart of a black woman is. And if you're telling me that I have that heart, it's like the biggest compliment you can give me. And I said, you know who else had that heart was my mother. My mother had that heart too. And so, in fact, when my mother died, there was like national mourning amongst the customer employee base of Ashley Stewart. They all knew. And all of the ladies across the country pulled money together. They sent my mother flowers. And so that's the power of business that's enmeshed correctly within a society. Like, that's balance. And so I think that's what we did really well. We created a company that was highly profitable, that was very reliant on, and knew it, reliant on connectivity, on mutualism. And I think that we brought the best out of each other. I think that the heart of a black woman is, she expects the best from you. And she wants it so badly. And I think we achieved that on scale at this company. That's what I think we did.
We could all benefit from having that heart. So what you have here is really a lesson in how to build a business with a good heart. And your TED Talk is about Red Helicopter, and that's what you founded. Could you share with us, so that we understand, what is Red Helicopter?
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is to understand the story. You know, as much as my parents wanted me to, quote, like, achieve and to just, you know how parents are, like immigrant parents sometimes too. And a lot of my students at Howard, even though they're not first-gen immigrants, like there's a weight that they have, right, to take care of a lot of people, and it creates a lot of weight. And it's too much, actually. Like, I get very, it's too much weight. So when I was 5, I came home from kindergarten with a toy red helicopter. And you have to understand, like, the Ree family, it wasn't easy in 1976. Okay, like, picture my parents reading the fine print on, like, banks. They didn't know anything. And so I came home with this toy, and they said, you know, hey, you can't steal that from school. Where'd you get it? And it's this $2 thing, I'm flicking it around, and I couldn't explain to them why I had it. And it turns out they found out I got it because I kept saying this family gave it to me. And then they said, oh, we don't know social customs in the US. Do all families exchange gifts at kindergarten in public school, Long Island? And I said, no, I'm the only one who got one. And then my dad sort of got irritated. He's like, why did you get it? And I said, I don't know. I'm like, Dad, I'm 5, okay? like picture like the bowl cut, right? And for any of you who have, you know, I think you understand the Socratic method of parenting? That's what I got, right? Anyway, it turns out they found out the reason why I got it was because I had been sharing my lunch with this boy who never had lunch. Because I didn't know this, but his mother died that summer. And so you had this single father, 4 kids under the age of 10. You know, now that I'm a dad, I can only imagine, right? And so the kid didn't have lunch. And so they asked me, why did you give him lunch? And I said, well, I thought I was in trouble. And that I shouldn't share it. Mom got up early, we don't have a lot of money, and like this perfect sandwich. And I sort of stuck my chin out a little bit. And I said, well, he didn't have any. And I thought I was going to get just like, and it's a look that I got from my dad in particular. I just will never forget. He's like, you think I'm mad at you? And I said, well, yeah. He's like, no. Like, you don't forget this. And so that, for me, is what it was a red helicopter. And I never forgot it. And sometimes it was embarrassing being that guy wheeling and dealing on private planes in Boston at 35 years old. think about it, right? The culture of it is not, and I always used to say, why wouldn't a great leader be generous? Why isn't a great leader have abundance mindset? Why does a great leader hoard money when there's enough? I don't understand. And so that's what Red Helicopter is as a story. And I talked about it, Ted. For me, it's a symbol of kindness. I think it's a symbol of humanity, of having real abundance thinking. And I think people who have abundance thinking create great things because you have no fear. And it's laser focused on, it's empathetic, I think some neuroscientists will say that kindness is the highest form of intelligence, right? Because you really can see other people, what they're thinking, and you're really out of your own head. That's our problem. We're all in our own head all the time. And so during those 7 years at Ashley Stewart, I think my relationship with these women, I think we brought the best out of each other. I really do. It allowed us to do what we did and say we're not going to be bound by these conventions. Like, it's going to be kindness and math. That's it. And all of the existing conventions, yeah, we'll bend them just a little bit. We're not going to destroy them, but we're going to bend them together. And so what I'm doing now with Red Helicopter, there's a book coming called, guess what? Yeah, and you can imagine there's probably believe it or not, I have Hollywood representation now because this story may be made into a called. And I'm teaching this philosophy at Howard, at MIT, at Duke. I train McKinsey's engagement managers. I'm on the board of Advancing Black Pathways at JP Morgan. I'm on the board of CEO Action for Racial Equity. I work with CEOs all the time, and I'm retraining them and saying, what if I told you that human wellness, your colleagues' wellness, can create so much wealth? Not just for shareholders, but wealth. I'm talking to pension funds, I'm going out to CalPERS, CalSTRS, and asking them, do you think that before you deploy capital into funds, that maybe we should also look at the social returns of the financial that you're creating? Like, if it's great that you made 30% on your money here, but if it created like 250,000 unemployed people, doesn't the state, is that net positive for your state? And so that's what Red Helicopter is. It's a song, it's an idea, but there's pedagogy behind it that really creates agency for people. And my belief is, just so you know what I'm teaching the Howard kids, picture a class where you are experientially immersed and you learn accounting, finance theory, cognitive science, capital markets, organizational theory, employment law. You're basically getting a JD MBA with a COG Sci degree in 15 weeks. And these are things we do not teach. Did any of you learn this in middle school? And why? I just don't understand why. And I have feelings about why. It's easier to sort of get away with certain things, maybe take some money, and when people don't know that that's what you're doing. So I'm making sure everyone knows, everyone has agency, and I'm leveling the playing field. And so that's what I'm doing right now. The reason why this all started, I know I'm rambling a bit, the reason why I'm at Howard is because about 3 years into Ashley Stewart, the ladies said to me, they said, you love us so much. Because I used to teach them while I was running the company. I'm like, let's do this. Let's teach accounting, let's do this. You got it, you know this. But they said to me, they said, James, we're getting up there in age. How about this? We'd rather you spend time with our kids. And so about 3 years in, I started HBCU, PBI, and women's university tour. I visit 8 to 10 universities every year, and I would teach. I teach the kids, and I said, this is what your mothers and your aunts and I are doing. Look. And so that's where all of this is coming from. I'm like, I said to them, one day you'll do this. You won't need some crazy, random, Korean private equity guy with pleated khakis to show up. You're going to be the CEO. You're going to own the company. You're going to make the access to capital markets. And I'm going to be sitting there in an old-timer's home doing this and being very happy. So that's what Red Helicopter is. It's a way of thinking, it's a pedagogy, and it's also, you can believe I invest behind people who do it this way. So it's also money, but money's last, right? It's social capital, intellectual capital, then financial capital, and that's what I'm doing.
I highly recommend that you listen to that TED Talk. It's really inspiring, and it really is a lesson on how we can manage our businesses better. So back to Ashley Stewart, James. What are some tools that you use to motivate the women there?
Well, I think the first thing is that I set the tone of leadership and mindset. So the first town hall, I think we really kind of warped the definition of leadership. I think my mother was the best leader I ever met. I think a lot of the women at Ashley Stewart were the best leaders I ever met. The first town hall, I said to everyone, I know. I know. I'm not a woman, I'm not black, I'm not particularly fashionable. I know, but I'm the only one who showed up. And I sort of said, this is it. And I may be the least qualified person to run this company on paper. I get it. If you get to know me, you may understand when I say, I think I know this woman pretty well. I think you're like my mom. But you'll have to get to know me better. I'll earn that trust. And so right away, the paradigm of leadership was, there's no pretense. I'm here to learn. So teach me, tell me. And so that's what I did, the first thing. And I quickly got out of the corporate headquarters. I spent most of my time, I was in Southside Chicago, Philly. I was there. I was just talking, saying, this is what's going on. So that was number one. And they saw it, right? Words, we talk too much, I think, these days. So I just did it. I just was doing. And they were very concerned about me being away from my kids. They were like, you're away from your children too much. I'm like, well, there's no choice right now. And then the second thing that I think that it was really trying to, it was a mindset shift. And I know that I'm going to get yelled at for doing this by Jeremy Zimmer at UTA because he hates when I say this, but I'm going to say it. Because in this room, I'm going to say it. It was really difficult for the women to see what was in my head for this company. They said, it's just a plus-size apparel business that's been bankrupt twice. We have no Wi-Fi. We sell clothes. And I said, no. Do you think I'm here for that? Do you not see what it is? The clothes this is like a safe place. It is. You can't see these women when they walk in, their neck doing this, and it's just, oh my God. I was I don't have one of these places. I don't. And I said, when you see that for someone, isn't that worth fighting for? That's the value. The clothes were just like a chit, 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 boom. Does that make sense? The product was something much different than clothes. It took me 2 years to get them to see it. And so to do it, I had to become a pretty sophisticated media company. I hired filmmakers, and I showed it to them. I said, look what's happening. Do you see it? And so those were the two big things, what's leadership? Because they were used to some pretty crappy leadership, telling them what to do. We did it the opposite. I said, you tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. And then in the back room, I'll rearrange all of this like a musical. We'll do it just backwards. I'm serving you. You're not serving me. You get it? Got it. Great. Second was getting them to see. Really sort of just be. And that's why I think people sort of saw, they felt it. That's what they kept saying, it feels different. I said, feels different because this is a majority-minority company. This is a majority black woman's company. This is what she sounds like, but you may not hear it in a boardroom on Wall Street. But I'm hearing it. This is what she sounds like when she's really herself. And I said, listen to her. And that's what we did. It was this, and then with that, neurologically, what happens? You have no fear. And we created crazy things and saying, we're a production company. I threw 3 concerts with En Vogue, Lonnie Love, Lala Anthony, like SWV, like I was producing concerts. We sold out King's Theater. We partnered with nonpartisan voting registration groups to register women to vote in our stores. And so Stacey Abrams called me and said, hold on, like this is nonpartisan, okay? Like I just said to the women, I said, you can vote for whom you want to vote. But if someone's telling you you can't vote, we're gonna have a problem. And so I got involved. So I said, no, you're not telling me she can't vote. So we set up these stations in the stores, and so Stacey Abrams said to me, are you sure you can do this? And I said, how can I not do this? And so we really pushed, I don't think it's an envelope, about like, as a business, we pushed her interests. I mean, I know you're about to get to this. I want to say one more thing, and then I'll sort of do this. Let me give you a really concrete example of what really upset me. Because think about this. Up until then, I was a private equity guy where workers' comp, I had a paper cut on my finger doing a model. That's workers' comp. Okay, let's be real about this. It was far cry from me washing dishes at Red Lobster and burning my hands at 15, making $3.35 an hour. All right? So when I got to Ashley Stewart, people were getting hurt. The women were getting hurt, like on ladders, like unstable, the light bulbs are crappy, and so they were getting physically hurt. I got very upset, and no one cared. I was like, you can't come to work and get hurt. This is ridiculous. Like this is the social compact? Like, because I'm paying you, I have license for you to get hurt, and then I can outsource the claims to a non-employer administrative body? Not okay. So I said, from now on, guess who's accountable for workers' compensation? Me. You get hurt, my fault. And I'm calling you. 2, pay. We had unbanked employees for Bank of America, right? Think about it. We had unbanked employees. Metaphorically, this company was unbanked. So we also had unbanked employees. So what happens sometimes? When you get a live check and you're unbanked, where do you go? No freaking way that's happening. And so I implemented an entire new HRIS system that allowed us to pay on debit cards. And so it completely circumvented check cashing. So in 2 things, as CEO and majority owner, by the way, I said to everyone, you come to this place, one, you're not gonna, like, I don't even want to talk about DEI, it was the most, without even me saying it, you can picture how the company was run, okay? But number 2 is like, you're not gonna get hurt, and no one's stealing your money that you worked for. It won't happen. Our workers' comp broke every actuarial table in the country. We had insurance companies come into our office and say, this isn't possible. And I said, what are you talking about? It's not possible. We just did it. And I took all the savings from the insurance, and guess who I paid it out to? The women who did it. And so all of a sudden now you have synthetic equity ownership of operations. Does that make sense? Number 2, hold on, number 2, paycheck, the debit cards, no one got paid with a live check. And so I said to them, I was like, look, I'm not Amazon, I'm not Apple, I wish I could pay you more. I can't. But at least the money you earned, it's yours. And I'm not gonna let some other parties like take money out of your pocket. And I think I would encourage every person here who's like CEO or someone, an officer, like, these are such small things, but you can do it. Like, the private sector can do this. And I have 20 more examples where all of these things you would never think about that were kind of like, who does those things in a company? I was accountable for it. And the overall wellness of my colleagues increased. Like, we won the highest healthcare award in New Jersey. A lot of the stresses that this woman faces every day that she doesn't even know, okay? They sort of fell off one by one, and then she was more well. And then when she was more well, guess what happened to our earnings? And so we reversed the vector, right? It was really sort of proving out that we all know it makes common sense. Treat people well, have them be well, do not lie to them, invest in them, teach them, show them things that they maybe think they don't understand, that they do understand, they know. And then look what happens to your results. We know intuitively that has to be true. And I think that's what's happening right now, is that I think right now I'm like the little nudge that gets to be able to say, I won't let you tell me it's not possible. We did it. Under the worst circumstances, with nothing, with no money, we did it. Enough to do a TED Talk. So. I get very passionate about these things, I'm sorry, but like it's like really, these are real lives. I just don't understand how we can be this cavalier about things.
Yeah.
Actually, so I was talking, he came from Boston to join us today, for the record. And it's a commute he does to come to Howard and teach. And he's telling us a lot about feelings and passion and how we can be better people. Don't get fooled. He told me, I go to Howard and I show up and I come from Boston. And then my students said, you come from Boston for me to teach me? And I responded, yes, and you can be here on time? Because he has the heart of a black woman, right?
That's hysterical. Well, so unfortunately, we can't continue the conversation based on time.
Oh, no.
But I want you to tell everyone how to get in touch with you, or how you can be reached, or any kind of last message that can carry on this conversation, where to find you, and of course, last-minute advice.
Yeah, maybe the advice first is that there's a lot of fear and a lot of real consequences of technology, machine learning, AI, all of these things. And so one of the reasons why, from a trend perspective, you're seeing emotional intelligence, empathy, generosity, Brene Brown, like that's what's happening, right? So Red Helicopter, really what it stands for is consciousness. It's humanity. These are things that, unless we develop a sentient computer, this will be an alpha. Like human beings, like flaws, imperfection, people will be looking for this. Emotion. It's a strength. And I know, like from the Korean community, because in the house it's much more emotional, even though on the outside the media portrays Asian people. I get this a lot, by the way. Asian people, you have so much soul. I get this a lot. You have so much soul. I'm like, a lot of Asian people do. Maybe they're not allowed to show it. Maybe it's not being videoed. And so one of the things we used really to our advantage in terms of just being, like just sort of like the passion. It was a real comparative advantage for us. It was passion. And so the heart of a black woman, just passion, caring. Those are things to be very proud of. And I think that from an economic standpoint and from a brand standpoint, people will be able to discern very quickly if you do care or don't care. People know. And there's going to be deep fakes and reality. So please care, right? Like it will be to your advantage health-wise, but I think economically too. Second thing, from just getting in touch with me, I have just come visit Red Helicopter, look for sign up, there's books coming, they asked me, they said, what the heck is Red Helicopter? So if you think about like the best movements, thinking, songs, folk songs, there's no author. It's a collective. A folk song has no author. There's no pride of authorship. So Red Helicopter is just spreading right now. It's being taught at some big schools, middle schools, CTY Hopkins, big companies, grassroots, movie, book. It's just spreading. Am I composing music? I am. Will there be a rock opera? Pretty sure. Because I'm going to end with this, and this is what UTA, like sometimes Jeremy said, don't say this. I'm going to say this. During the early years when I thought I was crazy, and people thought I was crazy, and so we spent 3 years alone under the radar. We were just doing our thing. Hamilton came out in a big way in 2015. And I said, wow, I get it. Because in a lot of ways, Ashley Stewart was a musical playing out in real life. It had an upside-down protagonist who couldn't convince anyone to play the part because I had to play the part. I had to go and be Hamilton. And then the women and I choreographed a whole new musical. And the whole world just watched and said like this, and I'm gonna end it with this. In all my rejections, the entire world rejected us. They used to say, oh, it's black. No one else will buy clothes. And I said, what? I want you to know that around 40% of our tech-driven e-commerce business, I tracked this, came from whiter suburbs, zip codes. And so I managed the e-commerce business to change the vector of capital. I was importing profits from whiter zip codes and importing the money into black neighborhoods. How many companies do that? And so we literally changed vector flows of capital. And so they were wrong. So our message really, it was a black woman speaking, and black women have lots of different friends, apparently including a Korean American private equity guy. And that's the world that we built, which, to me, that's the world I want from my kids. I think that that's the promise of America. It's not a Horatio Alger story that I hawk as the myth of America. It's things like this. This is America, and so that's the America that I want to be part of. That's why my parents came here.
Well, thank you so much, James. It's been such a pleasure, a wonderful journey getting to know you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. On behalf of the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.